What's up, guys? So, just to preface this, I just want to say that this is kind of an excerpt from a 4-hour live stream that we had as a charity event for Josiah Black, who played Edgar Munsen in 2017's Jigsaw, who tragically passed away this past June, leaving behind his wife, a young daughter, and their recently born son. So with all that being said, I want everyone to go down to the description section below, hit that link, and please go check out the GoFundMe page that his wife set up. And if you have any money to spare whatsoever, then please, in the giving spirit of the holidays and just everything, the Saul family as it were, please make sure to go and just chip in $1, $2, $3, $4, $5, whatever you have. And also check out in the description section below some prizes that we're giving away for any donations above, I think it's like $10 or $15, but you're going to see down there. Hope everyone is having a fantastic day. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell over by the subscriber button to notify you every single time we upload. And yeah, just enjoy this conversation that Jacob and I had with Josh Stolberg, the writer of Jigsaw and next year's Spiral from the Book of Saul. Hope you enjoy. I do have one big question as it pertains to Edgar Munsen's character.
Oh no!
No. It doesn't it's nothing. It's actually just the thought process that went into creating it. One of the things, I don't know how long you've been waiting, or if you even popped in before you jumped in. But one of the things that we talked about was when it comes to Edgar Munsen, Josiah Black. When he comes in, he might not be the biggest character, like you said. There's just so many places that he's in. He's sprinkled throughout the movie. He's kind of an important character. What went into creating that scene? Even the producers and the producers' commentary were like, this is something that we've never really done before. The Saw franchise never really went outside of the studio. It was all kind of boxed in for the first pretty much 7 films. What went into making that scene, and was that something that was that a game plan from the very beginnings? We want to get out of the studio.
Yeah. No, that's a great question, and the answer is yes. That's exactly where that scene came from. From the very, very start, we knew, you always start with a trap, and that's an important part of the film. But we also thought, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we started with an action scene? Mm-hmm. And the funny thing was that idea actually came about, starting with an action scene, came about even before we knew what the film was going to be. There was a time, and I can't get too far into specifics of the actual of the previous drafts, because you never know what's going to come back and what we're going to play with. But there was a version of the sequel. It wasn't Jigsaw. It wasn't anything like that. It wasn't Saw 9. It was we spent 2 years trying to break Jigsaw and trying to figure out what the next film was going to be. Uh-huh. And there was a while where we were playing around with it being this almost international kind of movie. Uh-huh. Where it was going to bounce around continents and stuff. And we thought, hey, wouldn't it be really, really cool to freak the audience out, because they're so used to it always starting exactly the same way, is if we instead open with a big action scene. Mm-hmm. And as a matter of fact, let me see if give me 30 seconds here. Let me see if I can find Jigsaw. Yeah. So there was a version that was a street chase through the streets of wherever this movie takes place. Mm-hmm. I mean, we shoot them all in Toronto, or they've shot them all in Toronto. But they've always worked really hard to try to hide it. I know a lot of the super fans, they point to the building and they're like, hey, that's downtown Toronto. I know this, but they've been very, very careful not to say exactly where it was, even in the license plates. They changed out the license plates and all that kind of stuff. But there was a scene, the original draft, the first draft of the script, it opened over Black, and there was this horrendous, this scraping sound that was a saw. Uh-huh. And you're just hearing this like gnarly sound. In your mind, you're thinking, "Oh my God, we're about to drop into a trap like all the other films." And they come across, and then the camera goes from black to pops up on screen, and you're seeing this blade just and this horrific screaming sound as it's like going. And as you pull out, you realize that it's one of these street saws that cuts through concrete and the road, asphalt.
Yeah.
And they use water to kind of cool it as it's spinning.
Oh, it's like stuff when you drive by the interstate, you see all the time.
Exactly. So it's taking
okay.
off all of this water and smoke and craziness. And then you pull back from that shot like 8 blocks, like in a one shot, like pull back 8 blocks and come across this car chase. And then we had written out a full car chase through the streets and him trying to get away and almost hitting somebody and turning, and it all winds up coming back to that exact same spot where the saw was. And the car like rams into the saw, and that gigantic saw like flies through a store window and like just does all this damage. And that's when Edgar gets out of the car and runs into the building and then up to the roof and into what it was in the film. And Hefner, the producer, Dan Hefner, who I adore. That man, he works so fucking hard on these movies, and he's the one that has to make them all work. Like, he's the one where if you don't get your shot or if you don't get your whatever, he's the one that gets yelled at by Mark and Oren. So he read the first scene that we had written with fucking crazy car chases and car crashes and screaming down, like people diving out of the way and the car hitting the saw and it flying through the wind. And he just kind of looked at us, and he's very flat and dry. He's incredibly funny, but also incredibly flat and dry. And he was just like, Stolberg, Goldfinger, no. Like, it was just like not gonna happen. And then we greatly pared down the opening scene to what it is now, and open it with the tire strip, which and that was the Spirit Brothers finding that shot of, that wasn't in the script, the shot of the strip. You don't really know what you're looking at, and then when it pulls out and the cops throw it over the drive. So our gigantic 7-minute Fast and the Furious scene turned into a 30-second opener with a car spinning out of control and he running into the building. So yeah,
I could definitely see a Saw and Fast and Furious crossover extended universe. That'd be pretty interesting. My biggest thing, and everyone can take what they will, I personally tout that the Saw franchise is connected to M. Night Shyamalan's Glass or Split Unbreakable universe, and John is a superhuman that was accidentally created by Mr. Glass with everything that he was putting together in Unbreakable. But that's just my theory.
Hey, it's a great twist of spiral. No one see it coming.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah,
he's a super mastermind. Glass wasn't, but John is. Anyway, no, I personally think that, like, it's just such an interesting scene because we just haven't seen anything else like it, and Josiah does it so well. I mean, the physicality of that scene, putting it together, and also just the acting. Like, my favorite, and I don't know if you can call it cheesy, I don't know if you can call it like hamming it up or just overacting or whatever, but it just works so well in the Saw universe. It reminds me so much of Saw 5. His performance, he's like, I'm not going to be the one who dies. Like, it reminds me so much of the walls closing in at the end of Saw 5, and he's like, tell me how to open it, you son of a bitch. Like, I absolutely love that so much.
Yeah. And 100%. I love that. Yeah.
And it's memorable. Everything about that scene, the performance and everything about it is memorable. Not just the location, but the acting and the writing itself. It's good. Jacob, do you have any
we
questions?
wound up shooting. You know, a lot of when I say we, it's mostly them because I've only made the two. But they have shot in that location a bunch. Like there is. It's called the Soap Fact. No, I think we.
It's like a
called it
soap factory, is what they said in the commentary tracks. So it's I think like you're right. It was kind of a soap factory.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I think we called it the Soap Factory in the script, but it was the same building that they've shot. There might be scenes in every single Saw film in this one building. And when we were location scouting the first time, there were tons of conversations of like, oh, this room is perfect. And then Dan Hefner would say, no, we shot Saw 6 in this room. So we'd move to the next room. Oh, this room is awesome. Let's use this room. And it was like, no. Saw 3, we shot a huge.
See, here's the beauty about that is like we as fans, we're diehard fans. Like we watch all the commentaries, the behind the scenes videos. Like we know, just like Mark and I know firsthand. Like we can always picture, Dan Hefner because the stories like Bousman would tell. Like, Dan Hefner wears his pink shirt, and Grant, and he seems like the kind of guy, like he said, that we can picture him be like, look at the watch and the pose. And stuff like that. We're fans, we know enough. Like we're not on set, but just on the stories and the camaraderie that people on the sets and work on the years, you can tell we just like everybody's like having a blast and having a good time. So going back to, did Josiah do any fun stories on set, joking on set? I seen the photos you posted on your Twitter with him, getting out of the casket, stuff like that. Can you talk about that day, working with him on that day?
That was a fun day. We were outside in a park. Do you know the scene in Jigsaw where they're playing catch with the little girl?
Yeah.
Right.
That's on a baseball field, and directly behind it, when you're shooting a film, you're always trying to double book locations so that you're not having to travel across town. So that scene, there was the baseball field, and if you turn the camera 180 and looked in the other direction, it was a little park, and that's where we built the graveyard. Mm-hmm. So that wasn't a real cemetery. It was a whole bunch of fake stones that were put out there. There were props that were put there. We dug a giant hole to make it look like the coffin had been taken out. And everybody, we had to kind of hide him, Josiah. We had to hide him because
you don't want to spoil the reveal.
Yeah, exactly. And there's people walking by, and there's crowds gathering, and everybody is just. When you're shooting a catch scene, nobody really knows it. But when you've got a guy dead, dressed like he's dead with a big jigsaw cut out of his face, everybody is stopping and looking and pointing. And you've got the John Kramer headstone out there. So people are starting to gather and watch and all of that stuff.
See, I think
but he was just loving it. It was a really, really fun day to shoot. And he was just having a blast. Every day on the set, he was just always smiles, always having a good time, always joking around. I think I have, 30 photos in my thing with him, flipping a bird at the camera because that was what he loved to do more than anything. I think I posted a picture of me looking like I was slitting his throat online. I think I might have.
Yeah, I remember that a couple of.
Yeah,
it was a while ago.
He was just having a blast. And that was a day where all he had to do was just kind of lie there. It was a quick shot, but he was making the most of it and having a blast. And that's the thing about making horror movies is it's just fun. It's a lot of people running around. It's like playing old games, when you were a little kid and it's just fun. It's just a fun time.
The one thing that really sparks my memory about talking about that day, I think that specific day, is that I think was the first day that anybody got any real look into the film. Because I remember they had a couple of images of y'all digging up the grave, and I think because you have the gravestone with John Kramer on it, people are like, "Oh my god!" Like that's Salt
People
Legacy.
were taking pictures and posting them online.
Yeah.
That was an exciting day because like we knew it was in production. We had a title that didn't end up being the title, but we had this idea like, oh, this is actually happening because Lionsgate, Twisted Pictures, all that, they're so tight-lipped about all this stuff. They just let it sit and let the fans speculate and get excited, and then they drop like one trailer and it's pretty much done. And that's always been a sticking point. Is like, I know it costs a lot to market a film, but I'm excited because I'm kind of inclined to be excited.
Yeah.
I want them to, especially if they're trying to revamp it. Like, you can't just rely on it being, if it's Halloween, it must be Saw anymore. So I was worried at the time, but no, I did love it. We finally got that first trailer, and it's like, I really appreciated the music and the tone of that trailer as well.
Did we have 2 trailers for Jigsaw? Were there 2 different ones?
There's
or
TV,
just one?
There's
I think you just have one, but you have multiple
TV spots. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Them using that song for it, I thought was really interesting and cool, and gave it a different feel. It kind of signaled, I think, that this film was going to be a slightly different kind of vibe. And Spiral is also a very different kind of vibe as well. I'm hoping you'll see another trailer for that. We'll see what happens.
I assume that we're going to have to consider, not that they would have if everything had gone to plan, just because of the history. I don't know what their marketing scheme is, but I mean, considering
now,
considering
you gotta reintroduce. They're gonna have to reintroduce it out again.
And it's so tragic because, like Jacob and I have talked about on this channel multiple times, is like, if everything was going along fine, not only we would have had Spiral 7 months ago.
I would have been on the set for Spiral 2 right now.
Yes, exactly. Like that's the biggest thing, is like, we'd be discussing like how are they going to take this and to create something.
Yeah.
We'd have stuff to talk about. We could have put characters from that movie on our recent Saltober list.
Yeah.
But here's, okay, if I can get off just briefly, because we got a lot of heat for this, lot of heat for this in our Saltober list, but I stand by it, and I think Jacob does as well.
Oh, absolutely.
We did best. we did best and worst characters. Worst on his, best on mine, and we had 2 characters from Jigsaw. Oh, you gotta put it somewhere.
It's all good. This is all part of it.
We put 2 characters from Jigsaw on our best list. We put Eleanor and we put Logan, and we got a lot of heat for this. Because
of course you did.
Obviously the fan base is super torn about Jigsaw. We love it, especially every single time I watch it, I get something new from it.
That's nice of you to say. Thank you.
But I want to ask about Eleanor, because if there's one thing I'm going to heap praise on you and Pete for, it's you took, with Eleanor, I think you found the perfect embodiment of what I didn't know I wanted from the franchise. The shooting script is Saw 3D with Marcus Dundren, Patrick and Marcus. From what I understand is like, okay, the victims were going to start a Jigsaw cult, and they were going to kind of do what Amanda does and everything. They were going to harp off of the "he helped me" thing and the legacy and building on going from there, and it's kind of open-ended, but they took that out. I hated that. I'm glad they took it out. It's contrived. It's just trying to create this unneeded legacy and everything. But with Eleanor's character, you created a character that's completely devoid of legacy and everything. Not unlike Star Wars, I think, which is a strange comparison, but a character that has no business being in the story, but inserts herself in there anyway because she's a fanboy of things that happened a decade ago. Like she was much younger. She got inundated with this stuff, and she has her own philosophy with it. She's nobody. She never knew John, or at least not that we know. But she never knew John, and she has this idea that might be more pure than the people that we've ever known. And I feel the same inkling of that leaking into Spiral, where I don't know anything about Spiral, and I obviously am not asking you to explain or delve into this.
Right.
But I get the same inkling that this concept of legacy with y'all's iteration of Saw going forward is John's life happened, it's done. Now we're getting into how his life impacts the world around him. So you got fanboys, you got people who still knew him and are trying to interact with like his legacy and create it in the same way that Amanda or Hoffman were trying to, or even Dr. Gordon. And then you also have people who are going to use it for nefarious purposes. And I think that is such an interesting way to expand upon the legacy and keep it fresh. I feel like Jigsaw and Spiral have, from what I know from Spiral, it seems to have a direction that a lot of franchises in the horror genre don't after 9 or 8 films.
Yeah. Well, I think to briefly touch on the Spiral thing you were just talking about. Yeah. And obviously I can't.
I would never ask, and I don't expect.
Yeah. But to briefly touch on that, I think that one of the reasons that it does have a slightly different vibe is because of Chris's input. Like, you know, when you bring somebody like him on as an executive producer and somebody that's really working hand in hand with the writers intensely, you're gonna wind up with a slightly different vibe because he's looking at it from his perspective. And that definitely happened. And there was something when we first came in, because for Jigsaw, when we first came in, the franchise had already felt like it had been complete. I think some people thought it was complete after 6. Some people look at the 7 as being the first iteration of Saw, and it felt like stepping into Jigsaw, and I love that you guys love Jigsaw, but I'm not unfamiliar with the criticism.
Sure.
And it's fair, it's fine. Everybody's entitled to their own opinions. But just to give you a little insight in when we were stepping into it, is after it had been dormant for so many years, it felt odd to just jump right back into the exact same story and feel like you were making a whole new generation of people have to go back and become obsessed with the characters from a movie franchise from a decade ago. So there was this feeling of we wanted to not rebrand, because obviously we wanted John Kramer in the film. But like what you were just saying before, a lot of it's about finding new ways into figuring out why John is in the film. So once we came up with the time switch for Jigsaw, we were happy in that we knew we had a good twist, and we knew that we were going to get John Kramer in there, and we were going to play with the audience's expectations about how John is here, why John is here, how this is even possible, and all that kind of stuff, and hopefully surprise them a little in the end.
Yeah.
But we also knew that we needed some other clothes hanger to hang the plot on, and one of the first discussions we had with the entire team, with all of Lionsgate and all the producers and all of the people involved in Jigsaw, was that John Kramer would have, if this had been real life, if this was real, John Kramer would be Jeffrey Dahmer. John Kramer would be like,
right. Exactly.
He would be somebody that everybody knew and everybody had an idea about, and everybody would know he's dead. So you can't really rely too much on, oh no, he's still alive. Believe me, we had many conversations about, like, all right, how are we going to bring John Kramer back, and how are we going to, how is the death not like all of these things. which might have made a lot of fans happy, but it would have made a lot of fans upset at the same time. Like, oh, now you're retconning everything, and you're making it seem like nothing had happened. All of these movies that I'm obsessed with didn't even happen because you lied to us. You're cheating. So writing these films, there's a lot of that. Like, you don't want to cheat, but you want to give the audience what they want. You know that they know a twist is coming. You've got to hide it from them. It's hard work. It's really hard work.
Yeah, it's unforgiving, I think. I could not do better. I honestly couldn't. I've tried on this channel, so yeah. I love the exploration, and I definitely love the concept of like he would have a legacy, and I love the fact that people will take what he did and his meanings for why he did it and just twist them in various ways. And that's my point. Like Josh likes to say, or not Josh, Jacob likes to say, she's only in there for like 7 minutes. Like, she's like 7 minutes of the movie. She has like,
she makes the most out of those 7 minutes.
She just she kills every single second of it, and it's like, okay,
she's great. She's great. Just so you guys know, there was a 9-minute scene that was cut from the film with her.
Damn. See,
that is awesome, and I am flabbergasted how it didn't wind up on the DVD or the Blu-ray,
because they never give us anything. After the third film, jam-packed with amazing content. On the DVD and Blu-rays, nothing. It's just been bone dry since, and I just can't. I told you as soon as it came out, I was like, there's no commentary from you and Pete, and I was expecting it, and I was hurt by it, not surprised, honestly. And I was like, maybe y'all get together with a microphone and just so happen to talk for an hour.
Do our own little commentary. I like that.
Just put it because honestly, it's something that I would want to hear. I don't have any inkling about anybody else, but it's something that I want to hear because there's just so many tidbits, and the producers are great. All of them, they do a fantastic job on any commentary, but when it's the only thing you get every single time, I just want a little bit more variety.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I get that. I will say this series, this Saw franchise is, because it's gone on for such a long time and it's been kind of so iconic in the horror world, but it's also gone through so many different creative people, from the Bousman and Marcus and all of these people have all put their thumbprint on it, and I think that Oren and Mark and Dan and Jason Constantine and Lionsgate, they've all been there since the beginning. So I think that they kind of look at that as their role to push forward that. And then there's also, I think, a financial element to it too, where back when they were making the DVDs for Saw and Saw 1 and Saw 2 and Saw 3,
they were huge money makers.
There was more money in it. There was more money in it. And now everybody's just squeezing pennies in order to be profitable, so they don't put the same kind of time and energy into the creation of. And this isn't a cut on the Saw franchise or on Lionsgate. It's Hollywood.
It's everything. I completely understand. It's everything, and it's so sad because back in the day, where you can get a special director's cut of any DVD, any film that you liked, and you can have the commentary, you can behind the scenes, all this stuff, especially the original 3 films of the Saw franchise. It's like going to film school, kind of. Like they'll sit there and there's all these special features, and they show you like, okay, we're doing this and this and this. And like you got Kevin Greuter coming here talking about like how he cut, like not showing you, but like we talked this way and we decided to do this, and then James Wan in the first one's like, I was just trying to put together a film. Like, we had no budget. And it's just so fantastic, but I get you. And honestly, what I'm hoping for, and I think part of the problem is y'all just keep pushing out the movies, like a Criterion Collection or Shout Factory, something where they can give us something a little bit more akin to what they gave us just this year with the Friday the 13th re-release, which is fantastic.
I thought that was fantastic. I'm hoping that'll happen. I would imagine that when we finish the 10th movie, it'll probably be one of those guys, or if Spiral does well and we do 3 of them, that maybe it'll be after that. But I'm hoping. I'm hoping. And you're right. I am in love with those. Like it is like film school. Like I'll put on my favorite, like a David Fincher film, and just do a deep dive into everything about how and the really good ones, they'll go into really a lot of detail about how they made certain shots work, and it's really interesting.
The one question that Jacob and I were talking about before you came on, I don't know how much you want to elaborate in this, or even if you can, but just considering the circumstances, were y'all at some point planning, just considering the interconnectivity of the Saw franchise, bringing back Josiah in any context, like Edgar Munsen's character? He's so connected to everything in that movie. And that was one of the first things, besides just that feeling of grief and frustration and anger and sadness when he passed. One of the first things I thought about was, oh my God, because we had been thinking that was, because there were a lot of unanswered questions as to what was he running from? Like, where was he coming from? What was happening? Like all of these things, and his way into the film. And what it also would have done was it could have connected back to John, like all of these things. So yeah, 100%. That was that. Just because somebody dies in a Saw movie doesn't mean they're not coming back. I mean, just look at Kramer. I mean, yeah,
he's dead after 3, and then he just keeps showing up. But there's a lot of those in the franchise, and I think I've even mentioned to you guys before. There's nothing I would love more, whether I'm a part of it or not, to see a film come after the Spiral series, to come and connect all of the different worlds together would be super, super fun for me.
Oh yeah. I have so many. I'm not going to share them with you here for legal reasons, and also just I don't want to bother you. But I just have so many ideas for. You're not gonna. I'm working
on one idea right now. So.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. I wouldn't do that to you because, one, I mean, you probably get this all the time. I don't want to be that asshole, but at the same time, I'm also an attorney, and I don't want to screw with you. I don't want to screw with me. I will just keep all this stuff to ourselves.
You know what's really sad, dude, is that there is no one that wants to hear all this stuff more than me, and yet it's like one of those things where I can't have the conversations. And I've got friends, living in Hollywood and doing this for 25 years. I have a lot of friends that are key people in huge franchises, and all I want to do is talk to them about I've got this great idea for the new James Bond movie, and you can't say anything because once you say it, then all of a sudden it opens up all these it's horrible. And you have no idea how many people slide into my DM with, hey, I just want to tell you this idea, and it makes me sad. I hate it. I hate writing back those emails saying, I had to delete your thing, and I just want you to know I didn't read it, and for legal reasons I can't take it. But it's sad to me because I want to be on your guys' side where I'm able to fantasize about all of the fun directions to take the franchise. And
and there's just so many, especially with this one. One of the things that we did get from the special features that they put with Jigsaw, maybe you can elaborate on this a little bit. You and Pete were talking about coming into the franchise as a whole. I mean, new to this kind of behemoth of a thing. Literally look at pretty much anybody who's been attached to it since it began and see where they went. I mean, the guys who created it. I mean, it's
insane.
Yeah.
What James Wan and the
Lee Winnell, James Wan, yeah.
And I mean, it is It's beyond. It's insane. It's really, really, really insane.
And
I had a job, my very, very, very first job in Hollywood. I was a production assistant, a PA on a TV show called Parker Lewis Can't Lose. And it was this little,
I've seen that show. Yeah, I've seen that show.
It was my very, very first job in Hollywood. And basically my entire job was like cutting papayas for the executive producer, doing the laundry, doing the director's laundry, washing the car for the executive producer. I mean, like, that was basically my whole job. And then when I wasn't doing all of the grunt work, I was able to kind of sit inside the meetings and see how the sausage was made, and sit in writers' rooms and sit next to the director on the set and sit in while they were scoring the show. And it was really like this insane, in-depth film school. But I'm going back, I'm bringing it back to what you were just talking about, where there were a few like writers on the show that it was like this insane murderer's row of writers. The executive producer, his name was Clyde Phillips. He went on and was the showrunner of Dexter, and is doing the new Dexter.
Yes.
One of the best showrunners of all time. Tom Spezialy was one of the writers on it. He's the showrunner, one of the showrunners of Watchmen, and The Leftovers, and Desperate Housewives. Adam Barr was one of the showrunners of Will and Grace. I mean, it was like every single person in this room was just at the top of their game. And then when you look at the Saw films, it's the same thing. Like, all of these people who have kind of gone through these films, they've made I'm waiting for my big break. I'm waiting for my my Conjuring. I want my Conjuring, god damn it.
No, it's like that's one of the things I love about the franchise. It's just like so many talented people. Like, it's just kind of a cultivating farm of like just talent for the horror genre, or just anything really. But more so than I would think anything in recent memory. And I think part of that is because not only do multiple people keep coming back for every single installment, but in terms of the creative team that they bring in, it has changed. Like, I can't think of any other franchise that has so much turnover in terms of like popular horror franchises that have so much turnover that isn't kind of built out for The Conjuring is built out for that. Like, it's too big for one person. Insidious, Lee Winnell did pretty much all of that until, like, I guess the most upcoming recent one. And I think he didn't direct 4, but I can't off the top of my head think of who directed 4. But I know James Wan did 1, 2, Lee Winnell did 3, and onward. It's really interesting. And then Patrick and Marcus, they went and did The Collector, which is that I cannot wait for the trilogy capper of that. I've been waiting for that for over a decade. Man.
I have to say that me and Pete have been going back and forth with Patrick and Marcus. We're always, for some strange reason, we're always like right in front of the other one on a project or right behind the other one. Like, I think I rewrote one of their Halloween scripts. They rewrote
the third one. Oh yeah, they were
Piranhas.
Yeah. They did Piranha. They did the sequel to Piranha. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of fun. Are y'all
going to write the God of War script? Is that going to be y'all's big break? Because I think they were on that for a little while. I don't know if that's even still happening, or I haven't heard anything about it. But
I think
they guys were about getting the God of War game out first.
Weren't they doing Final Destination? I think they were doing.
They are doing Final Destination now. I mean, they've been attached to a lot of things. I can't believe a lot of it hasn't gotten made. Like, it for the longest time it was like the Outer Limits they were going to do. Yeah. And then they were going to do God of War they were attached to for a long time. Now it's Final Destination. I think the Final Destination one is definitely happening, though. So I'm excited for that. I think that they're the perfect people to do that film.
I've never met... Well, I think I've met one of them at some point. But I have just so much respect for their body of work. They've done some some great stuff.
Yeah, I think the first time I ever saw them, even before the Saw films, maybe it was during, I can't remember, maybe that's what brought me, but they had the HBO Greenlight thing, and they got to do the first Feast film.
Yes.
And I didn't know about them before they were on Saw, and so by the time that happened, all three of them were out. So me and my friends just binge watched all of them. We rented them from Blockbuster and just binge watched all of them at the same time. And that was not. I wouldn't tell anyone to do that. It's a crazy experience. But it's a fantastic thing. And it's like, okay, these guys have a lot of range. Like, they obviously knew what they were doing here. They know what they were doing with Saw and The Collector and everything else. So another one of my crazy stupid fan theories is that The Collector is Home Alone 3. That is Macaulay Culkin, all grown up, taking his family back, and from the perspective of the robbers. No, but Jacob, do you have any questions or anything?
Yeah, I want to get two questions from people who donate so far. I just want to give you an update on the how much we made so far. So far in the last month, we've raised over $1,800 for.
Oh my God,
Black.
That's amazing!
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so
that's really you guys are awesome.
Oh, it's all Jacob. It really is.
That's amazing.
He's
Jacob.
been putting all of this together and stuff, and one of the reasons I'm here is just he keeps bugging me. No, I'm happy. I'm happy to do it.
I need someone to help figure out. I'm just a school teacher.
No. I'm happy to do it, and if it gets the word out there and everything. But he's been pushing this really hard, and
I love it.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah. One of the perks of the donation was I said the top donors so far can have their questions asked on air. Of course, you had the right to say, no, I can't say.
Yeah, of course. I'm looking forward to it.
So there's two of them have right now. Joe donated. He asked, we have mentioned, you had mentioned ideas about Edgar Munsen for the possible sequel. And would it be possible for his brother Paul to jump in if that was an idea to the reprise role of Edgar Munsen?
Oh, that is a really good idea. I hadn't thought about that before. I kind of doubt that they'll recast the role with a different person just because it's a little it's a little off-putting. That said, oh my God, the first person I'm going to suggest putting in the next film will be Paul. Like, I mean, I'll definitely bring that up to the producers.
Yeah.
Why the fuck not? That'd be awesome.
Well, like
that would be so cool.
One of the things we were talking about before you go on, one of the things we were talking about before you jumped in the call was like, if they were to ask Paul to do that, like, like. The Saw franchise is kind of a horror soap opera for the most part. I mean, you play off the soap opera rules. That's my perspective. I agree that recasting. I understand there's a limit to asking people to like reprise a role that from a dead relative. I feel like that is asking a little much. It's kind of a little emotionally heavy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there an example of that? Is there
the Skywalker movies, isn't it?
Skywalker, yeah, because Billy Lord played Carrie Fisher in the she was the stand-in for Carrie Fisher.
Oh wow, yeah. Wow.
And
Fast and Furious movies with Paul Walker.
Paul Walker's brothers, but that was digitally inserted.
Yeah.
Both of them.
Have you guys read my little Carrie Fisher write-up on my blog?
No. Can you send it? Can you send it in the chat? Or no? I'll just look it up.
Yeah. Just look it up. There's after when she passed away. I mean, I got to hang out with her for a few days on Sorority Row, and she was just so cool. But I did a little write up that you might find funny.
Fantastic.
But to go back to the question, yes, we were, if and when we came back to the Jigsaw universe, which I was hoping and am still hoping that we can do, that would have been 100%. That would have been something that we would have answered. And the funny thing is, there were conversations going around when we were writing the script in different drafts of the script, where we were wondering whether we needed to flesh out that character more in the actual film itself and explain that backstory. But one of the things that we were doing with Jigsaw was also kind of letting loose a little bit of the card house that was being built by all of the Saw films, where it just got to the point where it was struggling under its own weight a little bit,
Yes.
So for some reason we decided just to let that go. I mean, there's a zillion things you have to let go. Like when you're making a film, you just can't, there's no way to do it all. You got to figure out what the stuff that can go. And one of the conversations we had about that role was, we'll just come back to it in the next film, and we'll leave this as a little moment in time, and then come back to it in the next movie and explain out in the same way that the Saw films have done in the past, where like, how did somebody get out of the bathroom? Like all of those things, you're like, we'll see it in the next film or in 2 movies from now. So yeah.
No, I understand that wholeheartedly. Just the logistics of it. And honestly, like that's one of my favorite things as a fan of the franchise, is just how each and every single film builds upon itself and allows itself to kind of tell an elongated story. Even if you don't know exactly what the background or anything else like that, you come back to it and you try to make it make sense. It's one of the things I absolutely love about the franchise and look forward to every single film.
Yeah. But there's always moments where you're like, oh shit, we made a mistake. Like I was reading on some fan. I'm always reading the fan sites, so I'm always listening to people badmouth Jigsaw.
Sure.
But one of the things I remember was they were like, well, how is that handsaw in the closet of Eleanor? Because
I hate
still
this
in the bathroom, and I'm like, oh shit, you're right.
Well,
like,
I've thrown this. I've defended this same question so many times, and I'm like,
okay,
there's nothing in the movie that indicates. There's nothing in the movie that indicates that they found the bathroom, and everyone's like that handsaw,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, okay, it's a replica, because everything in there is a replica, and you can't say it isn't, because Zepp was filming the entire fucking thing. Like, all of those trap things, all of those videos are on jigsawrules.com, and and that's where it comes from, and that's what she was doing. So I keep saying there's no definitive answer as to whether or not they have yet.
And I don't remember if the line is actually in the movie or not. I lose track. You spend a year on something and you're rewriting it 100 times. You don't always remember exactly what makes it into the final cut, because by the time it's all assembled and put together and you're at the premiere, by the time you see the actual finished film, when everything is said and done, and you just don't remember. But there was definitely a line that we had written where it was said that these were all things that she had found blueprints for and had recreated. And
she says in the film, she says that somebody on the website is selling blueprints. And my thought was, because she has the spiral trap.
Yeah.
And my thought was, okay, that's a pretty clear indication that everything in here she's built by herself. And that's another reason I love her character, is because she embodies like everything that we loved about Amanda's character too in Saw 3, where she's talking to Linda's like, the bear trap, the bear trap recreation is like, I built this. It's the same thing. It's like, oh, that's perfect. Because she's fully enveloped into this world and this legacy and stuff, and has no reason being there, and still mysterious enough to know like what's the mystery behind why she wants to be there has never been answered. So
well, we had done I remember one of the big conversations we had was that seeing the spiral trap there, the Cuisinart one, what was it called? The spiralator. I forget what they call it.
Spiralizer, like that. Yeah.
Spiralizer, yeah. When you see the spiralizer trap in the gallery in her warehouse, there was a lot of discussion about, well, how do we? Is that going to give the time jump away? Because how would they possibly get it to the barn in a scene and a half from now. You know what I mean? Like, so there was definitely, and we actually wound up cutting frames out of the film in order to hide the spiralizer at some points at the same time. There were definitely discussions going on. You wind up in all of these films, you wind up writing your way in and out of things and finding, oh, well, there's a problem with that. And then sometimes, and I can't believe this, they might be on the Saw 2 commentary, but one of the first meetings we had with Lionsgate and Oren and Mark, they were telling us that they had started shooting that film before they came up with the idea of he's in a safe place. Is that on the?
I don't know if that's. I can't remember that. I thought I remembered them saying like before they figured out the entire ending, but I didn't know if it was specifically the safe place or the bathroom. Like that everything's behind. I don't know. It could very well be like he's in the safe place, and so that just worked out.
Yeah. Well, I think that they wound up going back and reshooting something in order to make that work, because when they realized that connection, they were like, "Oh, this is a great little big, not little, big, huge twist there." But and again, that was one of the problems I think with trying to make a movie one a year, where you're so up against the gun, and it's why when you're making films, there's a reason why you usually don't see them every year, because it takes some fucking time to write and come up and produce it, and I mean all of these things. And when you're rushing it, you wind up missing some things, and there are times when the product isn't as great, which is always miraculous to me that so many of those Saw films are so much fun and so great. Like the fact that they pulled it off one a year. I mean, all of those fuckers deserve a medal. I mean, Dan Hefner's, he probably was having heart attacks I don't even know. I don't know how they did it. I mean, that's just insane.
Yeah. We see on like behind the scenes videos, like Darren does a video diary. I don't know if he did it for Spiral, but he did like just so behind the scenes, especially when we watch Saw 4 on DVD, like just the stress you can see behind the scenes. Like there's days, you talk about David's like, he got these shots and had 18-hour days and it being 23-hour days, stuff like that.
Oh my God. He's a total stress case. He is brilliant. Darren Bousman is brilliant. He's an evil genius. He is brilliant. He's crazy. But man, he wears it all on his sleeve. Like he's just like, there'll be days where he is ecstatic and just depressed in this, like in the space of 5 minutes. But that's sometimes it's the brilliant people that are the ones that are nuttiest, you know. They're the ones that the ones that take it so hard. I mean, he's one of them. He's and he did a great job with Spiral. I'm really excited for people to see that.
And then the last question I have for someone who donated, this is from pull it right here. It's from Kyle Maxwell, who asked, and aside there, the same question in the comment section asked kind of the same thing. You feel free to say yes or no on this. It says, is it true that we're going to have the final Charlie Clouser's Hello Zep score in the ending? And I think, I know you can't really say this.
I don't know what that means. Wait, I want to know what that means.
What do you mean final?
Like, final? Does that he's
final,
leaving the franchise?
Like final Zep.
I will tell you, I can't imagine.
The final Zep, you're saying. The final Zep. Okay. Okay.
I can't.
I think I can answer this for you without say, guys. It's Charlie Clouser.
Yeah.
Put it together, guys.
He put something together. Like it's just not a Saw film without him.
It's not a Saw film without Charlie. So yeah.
So I think we can answer that question. Yeah, that was all of our donators' questions that we had.
I love it. Love it.
So but
have you guys seen Lee's new movie? Are you
The Invisible Man?
Yes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's a fantastic
It's
film.
great.
I loved it, and he's figured out a way to make these movies on no budget and make them look big. Like,
I think that's just the way that they like. I just think that's the way that him and James Wan grew up. Like with Saw being such a minuscule budget. I mean, it's absolutely crazy, honestly, that what they can achieve and how claustrophobic and scary it is. I know that the one thing that really bugs me about that movie, and everybody else has their own opinions, but I don't find many things scary, but I hate the suit. I hate the suit so much. It disturbs me. It's just a bunch of little dots next to each other.
Were you? Because that suit came as a surprise to me in a bit, because like it's so the way the franchise had been played throughout history is that he's invisible. Like he's actually invisible. Was that bothersome to you, or what was
no? I'm talking about the suit. Like it's a. I don't say I'm not phobic about it, but like there's an unnerving of just a bunch of little dots. Like people can't look at like beehives or something because it's just like it's just a bunch of black dots in a pattern. That disturbs me. The suit didn't. I like the way they built that up. The only thing I would say is it would have been more shocking if the first part of the movie didn't kind of give it away. Yeah. That's the only thing. Like that's the only thing that I wish that they would have done is just would have hid the suit a little bit more. Yeah. Because they kind of allude to it at the very beginning, and then you know that there's something there. They wouldn't have shown it, just general film language. They're not going to show it unless it's important, and it's coming back later, and it takes all of the mystical part of just being invisible out of it. Yeah. No, I get it. I totally get it. Man, it's hard to make a movie. It's just hard to make a movie. Yeah, it is. I've done it. I've done it, and my film is. You know what? I think it's still on YouTube. It's on Kings of Horror. It's called Derelicts, and it is. Really, let's check that out. It was such a grind. I think I've only had one real mental breakdown in my life, and it was during making that film. And it was a 22-hour day, and I still, because I was producing it, and it's so small budget, it's so low budget that like when everyone went home, I would have to clean everything up by myself. Oh, I've been on those sets, dude. I've been on those sets. So. And I had, because you have to get there, you had to get there at 7, and we're sitting there, it's 3 in the morning, and everyone's getting ready to leave, and people have gripes with me that I can't figure out or solve at the moment, and I know that I still have, an hour and a half of cleanup before driving 30 minutes home and falling asleep for 2 hours. And putting all the craft service in your own car for the next day. Oh, hell. Absolute hell. And then we finished that up, and I was like, all right, law school it is. And no, but it was like I still pine for those days, and I swear to God, the one thing I want in my life, having done this channel and everything, is I'm just now going through, because it's 6 hours. I'm not going to go through it in one sitting, but I'm going through Camp Crystal Lake Memories, Memories, and I'm like, I need to do one of these for Saul. I need somebody, it doesn't have to be me, but somebody has to put together a full-fledged documentary about the creation of this franchise, every single film. Yeah. Because why haven't they done that? Why? We gotta find the right person for the job. My thought of it is, we are not at the moment right now where the Saw franchise is old enough to have nostalgia. Right. I don't think people treat Jigsaw like he should be, he's a classic horror villain. We see that now. I think we're starting to see that. We have seen that over the last 5, 6, or even 7 years with Ghostface, because so many people gravitated towards Scream in the 90s. Right. I think in the next couple years, and I'm starting to see some inklings of it, that the Saw franchise is going to ink its way into popular culture again, not because it's becoming more relevant, even though the movies are still out, but because people my age are now pining for their youth and be like, oh, I remember in my day we had a fantastic horror film, and showing their kids and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. I would love to see that done. I think that would be a lot of fun to get into.
Yeah.
Somebody to pick apart all the movies too and say
Nah.
what the problems were too. Like we're all the
no, not like a Cinema Sins. Those guys are evil. They are like
Funny, but
terrible criticism. But
yeah.
Oh man. Okay, Josh, you've been with us for so long, and I completely appreciate it. I don't know if you have to go right now, but there's just one question.
I'm gonna hang out for 5 more minutes, and I gotta go have
one
dinner with my family.
One more question, all right? And I greatly appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you and Pete are in the Saw franchise, obviously you've already talked about how you want the Saw franchise to find itself merging all of these different stories and stuff in the future. Like, no idea plans with you plans or ideas of what you want to do or anything, but just in general, like, if you could, would you shepherd the future of the franchise? Like, how would you do it? Not like just movie sequels, but like, we're long past the days where we get like novel tie-ins and comic books and all these extended universe things. Like, do you think the Saw franchise can withstand that? And if you could, like, would y'all be enthusiastic with crafting that universe?
Yeah, I would be absolutely thrilled. I mean, that would be like a dream project for me. I think the problem is going to be that I think there's a who knows what's going to happen when Spiral comes out.
Sure.
I mean,
sure.
We don't know. No one knows. Like, I don't know what the response is going to be. I don't know what the interest is going to be. And it's this weird thing where if Spiral becomes a gigantic success, it makes it less likely that they're going to want to look backwards and tie things together. If it's not a success at all, then same thing. So it's like this, you're on this weird precarious, like, look, I want Spiral to be a gigantic success. I absolutely do. So it's all going to come down to when the right timing is.
Yeah.
And I will say that without saying specific things, I mean, we've had a lot of conversations with Mark and Oren and Lionsgate, and mostly Mark and Oren, since they're the ones that really are the ones in charge. Had lots of conversations about how to make that happen, other ways of bringing all these worlds together. Like, we've had real conversations about it. I can't tell you,
of course,
what they are,
but one wouldn't ask, wouldn't expect. I'm just excited.
100%. I mean, look, I am very, very lucky to be involved in this, and they might push me off the boat at any time. So who knows? But I'm in it until they give me my my departure ticket.
Okay. Yeah. Jacob, any quick questions as well?
Yeah. Like, before we let you go, Josh, like I said, I got just 2 things right here. One fun for me, and then one last thing for Josiah.
Yeah.
I'm working my butt off trying to get this TV show off the ground, this little favorite series I'm working on.
Love it. Yeah.
Like I said, as far as, like, continuity goes, like you just talked about franchise, it's hard, try going back and address every little detail, even if you're a screenwriter. So it's kind of hard. I'm finding out right now, it's kind of hard, to write a show or a movie that just, if you want to please the diehards, but you also at the same time, you got to think about the general audience and you got to think about the story. Like, I remember you said the scene earlier, like you mentioned there'd be more scenes with Josiah, Edgar Munsen, more scenes with Emily Anderson and stuff like that, where we think to yourself, that's great scenes in there that you can have your mind, but I'm finding out as I'm writing, it's got to make sense for your story overall. Like, you can have great scenes and great moments and great characters. You want to see more of this character, more of this time, but if it takes away from the story, then it's so hard. So I guess my question would be is, as a writer for like a franchise such as Saw, where do you want to like see draw the line? Like, do you focus more on a story, but at the same time you want to give your characters more fan service moments, like kind of reward the diehards, but at the same time you got to think about the mass audience too.
Yeah, in my mind, it's always about. I try to write things coming from a fan perspective because I've been a fan of especially horror my entire life. So I'm always coming at things of how it would please a fan, how it would please me. But there are, I mean, you're always making making films is making sacrifices. I mean, once you put a number on your budget, whatever that number is, it can be $300 million for a Marvel movie, and that's a problem because you're going to want an extra Hulk scene or whatever the thing is, and it could be $100 for a Saturday afternoon shoot that you're putting together, and that's not enough. So it's a sliding scale. So for me, it's all about trying just to do something that's going to make you excited. If I were you, I would try to be thinking of, don't feel obligated to write directly to the previous, in the same way that we kind of approach Jigsaw in a way, where it's like, yes, we're in this world, yes, we're in this universe, but you don't have to do everything with 5 minutes or a half hour or 2 hours. Like it's about finding what's going to make you happy, I think. I mean, like that's the way I would approach it if I were you.
Oh, that's great. That's great advice. And then as we let you go, any final words on what you want Josiah to be remembered as, or what memories of him?
Oh, it's very sad to me that we only got that couple of weeks on the set together. And he was such a good dude. I think the one thing that I take away from my time with him is just what a free spirit he was, and if you can rub a little bit of that off on everybody, I think the world's going to be a better place. Like he was the kind of guy that just lived like there was no tomorrow, and I think that's the thing that I take from it more than anything else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so Josh, we can't thank you enough coming on. Like you said,
yes.
Thank you guys so much. This is a wonderful thing you're doing.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
And I'll reach out. Will you also send me the link to the actual fundraising page as well?
Sure. I will. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
We'll put it on our Twitter or something. Yeah, absolutely.
I'll send it to you in a bit.
Okay, sounds good, guys.
All right.
Have a great rest of your night. Thank you for doing this. It's so cool. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you.
All right, we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.